Let me say this before I move on. Not everyone is going to need the same amount of recovery, and not everyone is going to need to recover in the same way. What is up, y'all? This is Dr. Tyler Khaleesi, physical therapist and strength coach. And today we're going to be talking about the compounding effects of fitness and when to rest. How much recovery do I need? We're going to answer those questions and more. So some of the main topics we'll talk about, what is working out and fitness actually doing to your body from a stress perspective? How to manage stress, right? What are the things we can do in our day-to-day lives or adjustments we can make in training? How to understand if we are being stressed. What are the markers or indicators that we're maybe handling too much stress at the moment? And then again, what adjustments can be made simply and efficiently to get you dealing with less stress, get you recovering better so you can get back to getting after life. So when we look at fitness, we have to recognize that it is a stressor. Right? Fitness, working out, taking a hike, those are good things, but they are stressing the body. And a lot of times we do those things on purpose to stress the body, right? We fitness, we work out, we lift weights to create stress at the tissues, the muscles, the ligaments, the tendons, because that stress forces the body to adapt and become stronger or faster or a better mover or whatever. Even though it is good stress, it's still stress that we have to manage and use energy and time to recover and repair from that stress. A lot of times that happens in 24 to 48 hours. We're good. We're humans. We're designed to manage stress and turn things over and recover. Typically, folks can do it pretty well. But when we also add in the stressors of life, things like cognitive stress from a big work project, or emotional stress from an argument with a spouse, or a sick kid at home, or a death in the family, and then other values or other additives of stress like the shitty commute to work or a work deadline coming up. Right? Some of these things we cannot change. So it's not like we can just say, oh, don't go to work and you'll have less stress. You have that deadline. It's going to be there. We have to accept that fact. When we're looking at all of these stressors, we understand that ultimately the body can only handle so much. And if you look at the body like a bucket, stressors like water or liquid in that bucket, the bucket's only going to be able to hold so much liquid. And when that bucket overflows, that's when we get things like irritability, extra aches and pains. Your motivation goes down. You get more fatigue, right? So these are going to be signs that you might be dealing with too much stress on a day-to-day. Now, I want to remind you, we're not just talking about emotional stress. We're talking about all of those things. Emotional stress can overflow the bucket enough to where your shoulder starts getting cranky and you haven't really done anything different from the shoulder from a movement perspective and you don't know why it's getting cranky. Well, maybe your body is just releasing that stress in that area, especially when you've had an area that's been painful in the past. That area is typically going to talk to you a little bit more when your system is just stressed overall as a whole. But if we want to keep that bucket from overflowing and we want to keep our stress under control, it's really about the balance between work and recovery. So work, when we're talking fitness, we're talking about exercise, moving weight, going on walks, going on hikes, the stress you're getting from your actual job, the stress you're getting from your commute, right? That's the plus. We're adding in stress. Then we talk about recovery, getting quality sleep, making sure you're eating enough food at the simplest matter, enough water, right? Making sure that you have time to decompress mentally and emotionally, making sure that you have time to not think about fitness or work or other things like that where you're doing things that you enjoy, right? You're stressing your body in a way that you enjoy. The balance between work and recovery is ultimately what's going to keep you managing stress well. That being said, we need to understand if something needs to be managed or adjusted first. So as I mentioned before, some key indicators that your body is starting to become a little overstressed and you may need to implement some sort of recovery strategy or add in rest. We're looking at things like irritability. You just get pissed off easier. We're looking at things like aches and pains, little random dings popping up here and there, or something that's hurt in the past is starting to talk to you and you really haven't done anything different to it, or can't place it on a specific movement or something you did physically, your actual sleep quality starts to decrease. It sounds ironic, but if you get stressed enough, it's going to start limiting how well you can actually sleep and recover. And then of course we have things like energy, right? Your energy is just going to be in the toilet every day, or it depletes really quickly early on in the day. And your motivation, you just don't feel motivated to do things, even some of the stuff that you used to typically enjoy. And so those are going to be indications that you may need more recovery. You may need to be implementing some recovery strategies or get some more rest. Let me say this before I move on. Not everyone is going to need the same amount of recovery, and not everyone is going to need to recover in the same way. A lot of typical training programs like to put rest days on specific days every week, and that's okay. It's a safe way to make sure that we're just getting enough rest in, it's happening at the minimum, and then we can adjust from there. Some folks believe that we can just put in rest whenever it's needed. Like I said, it's going to depend on the person. I typically go with a pretty standard, like, okay, you're always going to rest on the 4th day of your training cycle, or you're always going to rest on Wednesday, just because, like I said, it's safe. People get used to it. At the very least, we know that you're at least getting some potential to reduce stress and not be taking on so much physical stress at the least. Now, to put things back in balance and get your stress down, get some of that irritability, the aches and pains, the demotivation to go away, we need to improve the balance between work and rest. We need to improve our recovery. Sometimes it's as simple as just reducing the work for a little while. Taking away some sets, taking away a few exercises, reducing how heavy you go with some exercises. And that could be enough just to let your recovery catch up. And then you slowly return back to the same amount of work you were doing previously, and you're good. Sometimes that might mean adding in rest days for a temporary time. Let's say you do have a work deadline. Nothing has changed with your training, but this work deadline is kicking your ass. It's taking away from how much you can give to training, but you're still trying to give the same amount that you were. That bucket's going to start to overflow a little bit. Well, we need to fortify that bucket by just adding in an extra rest day or spreading out your training days a little bit longer. So instead of going on a 7-day cycle, you use a 10-day cycle, because now you can put rest days in between those sessions. So one tactic is just going to be adding rest days. Another one is going to be reducing work. See what's happening here. Increasing recovery, decreasing work. It's starting to get more balanced. The last thing is going to be actually adjusting your recovery strategies. And this is a pretty low-hanging fruit. And if you are feeling like you're getting a little too stressed, you're not recovering well, see what's going on with your sleep. Take a look at how much you're eating. Don't get super fancy about protein and carbs and fat and whatever. Just see, am I eating enough? Should I maybe eat a little bit before my training session so I got a little extra fuel, right? Am I sleeping well enough? I'm going to sleep every night at 9:30, but am I actually getting quality sleep? Simple adjustments, start with low-hanging fruits, and then move on and test that thing for 2 weeks before you try to take more adjustments. Last thing I'll say here, we do want, from a training perspective, your work to be slightly above your ability for your body's ability to handle it, right? We do need to stress our body slightly above its current capacity. But if we do that for too long, or if we do it too intensely, that's when issues arise. So some imbalance between work and recovery is okay intermittently, certain parts of the year, certain parts of your training regimen. But if it's happening too long, typically folks respond poorly, and that's when all of those indicators of excessive stress pop up. Hope that was helpful. If you have any more questions about how to modify your own stressors and improve your own recovery to increase your performance or help address pain, certainly let me know.